The scream tore through the air, silencing the excited chatter of fifth graders waiting at the entrance of Outrage Zoo. Emma Wilson's small body hit the ground with a thud, her hands reflexively reaching out to break her fall. A crowd of onlookers gasped as her prosthetic leg disconnected from her body was held aloft by a red-faced security guard. "I said it could be used as a weapon," the woman in the blue security uniform shouted, her badge reading K. Dunning, head of security. "Call it in. Frank, call 911. 12-year-old Emma looked up in horror, tears streaming down her face, her right leg ending mid-thigh where her prosthetic should have been attached. "Please," she whimpered. "Please give it back." Her classmates from Lakeview Elementary stood frozen, their permission slips still clutched in their hands. Ms. Peterson, their teacher, pushed through the suddenly silent crowd, her face contorted with shock and rage. "What on earth do you think you're doing?" The security guard held the carbon fiber prosthetic like it was contaminated. "This could be used as a weapon. Our policy clearly states no weapons allowed on the premises." And that's when someone in the gathering crowd raised a phone to record what would soon become the most viral incident of injustice the city had seen in years. Just 3 hours earlier, Emma had been vibrating with excitement as she carefully attached her prosthetic leg. After nearly a year of adjusting to her new reality, following the car accident that had taken her leg, today's field trip represented something monumental, her first major outing with her classmates since returning to school. She examined her reflection in the mirror, smoothing down the fabric of her favorite yellow dress that fell just below her knees. The prosthetic was clearly visible, but Emma had worked hard with her therapist on not feeling self-conscious about it. "It's part of you now," Dr. Marshall had told her during one of their sessions. "And it's nothing to hide." Her mother, Diane, appeared in the doorway, car keys jangling in her hand. Her face softened at the sight of her daughter. "Ready for the big day, sweetheart?" Emma nodded, grabbing her backpack from the bed. "I can't wait to see the new tiger exhibit. Tyler said they have 3 cubs now." Diane knelt down, straightening Emma's collar. "Remember what we talked about if you start feeling tired. Tell Ms. Peterson I need a break, and find somewhere to sit." Emma recited dutifully. "Mom, I'll be fine. Ms. Peterson already said we can take the zoo shuttle if I need to." The drive to school was filled with Emma's excited chatter about which animals she hoped to see. Diane smiled, savoring the sound of her daughter's enthusiasm. These moments of pure childhood joy had been rare in the aftermath of the accident that had claimed not only Emma's leg, but also the life of her father, Richard. "Have the most wonderful time," Diane said, as she pulled up to the school drop-off area, where other children were already gathering with their permission slips and lunchboxes. "I'll pick you up right here at 4:30. Emma leaned across the seat to give her mother a quick kiss on the cheek before hopping out, her backpack bouncing as she carefully navigated her way toward her waiting classmates. Diane watched for a moment, her heart swelling with pride at her daughter's resilience. She had no way of knowing that in just a few hours, she would receive a call that would turn their healing world upside down again. At school, Emma's best friend Lily rushed over immediately. "Emma, I saved you a seat on the bus." The two had been inseparable since kindergarten, and Lily had been Emma's fiercest protector during her recovery. "Did you bring the charm bracelet?" Emma asked as they climbed onto the waiting school bus. They had been collecting charms from different places they visited together. Lily nodded, pulling back her sleeve to reveal the silver chain adorned with tiny figurines. "Of course, we need a zoo animal to add to it." The bus ride was filled with the chaos only 30 excited fifth graders could create. Ms. Peterson, a veteran teacher in her 50s with prematurely silver hair, stood at the front, going over the rules once more. Remember, everyone stays with their assigned buddy. No wandering off. And if you get separated, go directly to the information booth near the main entrance. Her eyes found Emma, her expression softening slightly. If anyone needs to rest, there are benches throughout the park, and the zoo shuttle runs every 20 minutes. Emma felt a flicker of self-consciousness as a few heads turned in her direction, but was distracted by Tyler leaning over the seat in front of her. "My brother said they feed the snakes live mice," he whispered dramatically. "He said they swallow them whole." "That's gross," Lily replied, wrinkling her nose. "And probably not true. Right. Ms. Peterson." The teacher sighed, having overheard. "They certainly do not feed the snakes live animals in front of visitors. Tyler, please don't spread misinformation." Emma smiled as Tyler slumped back into his seat, disappointed. The bus pulled into the parking lot of Outrage Zoo, and the familiar flutter of anxiety began in her stomach. This was her first major outing with the prosthetic. What if she couldn't keep up? What if other people stared? As if reading her thoughts, Lily squeezed her hand. "This is going to be the best day ever," she whispered. The class filed off the bus in an orderly line, excitement barely contained as Ms. Peterson distributed their pre-purchased tickets. The zoo entrance was crowded with other school groups and families taking advantage of the perfect spring weather. "Remember to stay with your buddy," Ms. Peterson called out as they approached the entrance gates. That was when Emma first noticed her. The security guard with the tight blonde ponytail, pulled back so severely it appeared to be stretching her skin, standing at the metal detectors with a permanent frown etched on her face. K. Dunning, as her name badge proclaimed, was observing each person with the intensity of someone looking for contraband. As Emma approached with Lily, something in the security guard's expression changed. Her eyes fixed on Emma's prosthetic leg, visible below her dress. Emma felt the familiar weight of unwanted attention and instinctively tried to move through the line faster. "Hold it," the security guard said, her voice cutting through the ambient chatter. "What's that?" Emma froze, confusion crossing her face. "Excuse me." "That?" Karen Dunning pointed at Emma's prosthetic leg. "What is that made of?" Heat rose to Emma's cheeks as nearby visitors began to look. It's my leg. My prosthetic leg." The security guard's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "I need you to step aside. That needs to be inspected." Ms. Peterson, noticing the holdup, quickly approached. "Is there a problem? We're with Lakeview Elementary." "This item needs to be inspected," Karen replied, not taking her eyes off Emma's leg. "It could potentially be used as a weapon." "Ms. Peterson's mouth fell open. "You can't be serious. This is a child's prosthetic limb." "Ma'am, I don't make the rules. Security protocol states that any item that could potentially be used as a weapon must be inspected." Karen's voice grew louder, drawing more attention. "She'll need to remove it for examination." Emma's eyes widened in horror. "I can't. I need it to walk." "Then you'll need to use a wheelchair that we can provide, or you won't be allowed entry." The security guard's tone left no room for argument. Tears welled in Emma's eyes as a small crowd began to gather, watching the confrontation. Lily put a protective arm around her friend's shoulders. "That's not fair. You can't make her take off her leg." Ms. Peterson's voice took on a steel edge that her students rarely heard. This is absolutely unacceptable. I need to speak with your supervisor immediately. I am the supervisor, Karen replied, her chin tilting upward. And I'm in charge of ensuring everyone's safety here. She motioned to another security guard. Frank, please call for assistance. This group is becoming uncooperative. Ms. Peterson placed herself between Emma and the security guard. I will not allow you to humiliate one of my students this way. This is discrimination, plain and simple. By now, the entire class had gathered around, many of them staring in disbelief. Some of the younger children looked frightened, while a few of the older boys began to protest loudly. It's just her leg, Tyler shouted. She needs it. Karen Dunning's face hardened. One more word from any of you, and none of you will be entering this zoo today. Final warning. And then, in a moment that would later be viewed hundreds of thousands of times online, she reached down and forcefully grabbed Emma's prosthetic leg, causing the young girl to lose balance and crash to the ground. The collective gasp from the onlookers was audible. Emma's scream pierced the air as she fell, her hands barely breaking her fall. Lily dropped to her knees beside her friend, while Ms. Peterson's face drained of all color. I said it could be used as a weapon, Karen shouted, holding the prosthetic aloft. Call it in. Frank, call 911. Emma looked up from the ground, tears streaming down her face. Please, she begged. Please give it back. The growing crowd erupted in outrage. Parents shielded their children's eyes, while others began recording on their phones. A woman in a business suit stepped forward. Are you out of your mind? That's a child's prosthetic limb. Give it back to her right now. Frank, the other security guard, hesitated with his radio in hand. Karen, I don't think... Call it in, Karen repeated, her voice shrill. This could be a dangerous situation. Ms. Peterson had reached her breaking point. You've just assaulted a child with a disability. Do you understand that you've physically assaulted her and stolen her medical device? The shouting continued to escalate as Emma sat on the ground, humiliated and in pain. Lily had wrapped her arms around her friend, glaring defiantly at the security guard. Other classmates had formed a protective circle around them, many of them crying or yelling in protest. And then, to everyone's horror, the sound of police sirens could be heard approaching. Within minutes, 2 police officers arrived at the scene, pushing through the now substantial crowd that had gathered. Officer Jenkins, a veteran cop with 20 years on the force, immediately took in the bizarre tableau, a security guard holding what was clearly a prosthetic leg, a child on the ground in tears surrounded by her classmates, and dozens of outraged onlookers. What's going on here? He demanded, his experienced eyes quickly assessing the situation. Karen thrust the prosthetic toward him. This item could be used as a weapon. I was following protocol by confiscating it when this group became hostile. Officer Jenkins looked from the prosthetic to Emma and back again, his expression shifting from confusion to dawning comprehension. His younger partner, Officer Ramirez, was already kneeling beside Emma. Are you okay, sweetie? Officer Ramirez asked gently. Are you hurt? Emma could only shake her head, too overwhelmed to speak. Ms. Peterson stepped in. This is Emma Wilson, one of my students. We're on a school field trip, and this woman forcibly removed her prosthetic leg, causing her to fall. Emma lost her biological leg in an accident last year. Officer Jenkins turned to Karen, disbelief evident on his face. You removed a child's prosthetic limb because you thought it was a weapon. It's made of metal and hard plastic. Karen defended, though her voice had lost some of its earlier confidence. It could be used to return it immediately. Officer Jenkins interrupted. And then, we're going to have a serious conversation about what just happened here. Karen hesitated, looking from the officer to the prosthetic in her hands. But protocol states, I said return it, now. Officer Jenkins' voice left no room for argument. With visible reluctance, Karen handed the prosthetic to Officer Ramirez, who carefully brought it back to Emma. But the damage had been done. Emma was too upset and embarrassed to reattach it in front of everyone, and she couldn't stand without it. Can we move somewhere more private? Ms. Peterson asked, her arm around Emma's shoulders. Officer Ramirez nodded. There's a first aid station just inside. We can go there. As Officer Ramirez helped Ms. Peterson lift Emma, Officer Jenkins turned to address the crowd. Folks, please give this young lady some space and privacy. There's nothing more to see here. But that wasn't true. There was plenty to see, and dozens of people had captured it all on their phones. Even as Emma was carried away, the first videos were already being uploaded to social media, with captions expressing outrage at the treatment of a disabled child. Inside the first aid station, a zoo medic checked Emma for injuries, while Ms. Peterson called Diane Wilson. The conversation was brief but intense, with Ms. Peterson struggling to explain the inexplicable situation. Mrs. Wilson, there's been an incident? No, Emma isn't seriously hurt, but I think you should come to the zoo right away. A security guard removed Emma's prosthetic leg, and yes, you heard correctly. The police are here now. Officer Ramirez sat beside Emma, who had finally stopped crying, but remained silent, her face buried in Lily's shoulder. Emma, can you tell me what happened in your own words? Emma lifted her tear-stained face. She said my leg was a weapon. She made me feel like I was dangerous just for having it. Her voice broke. Everyone was watching. Everyone saw. Outside, Officer Jenkins was taking statements from witnesses, including several parents who had been waiting to enter the zoo with their own children. The videos being shown to him painted a damning picture of Karen Dunning's actions. She didn't just ask about the prosthetic, one mother explained, showing her recording. She grabbed it and pulled, which is why the poor girl fell. It was assault, plain and simple. Frank, the other security guard, had distanced himself from Karen and was speaking quietly to Officer Jenkins. I tried to tell her it wasn't necessary. We've had children with prosthetics visit before without any issues. I don't know why she reacted that way to this particular child. 20 minutes later, Diane Wilson arrived at the zoo, her face ashen with worry and anger. She brushed past security and police, her sole focus on reaching her daughter. When she burst into the first aid station and saw Emma sitting dejected on an examination table, her prosthetic lying beside her rather than attached, something broke inside her. "Oh, baby," she whispered, gathering Emma into her arms. "I'm so sorry this happened to you." Emma clung to her mother, fresh tears spilling. "Everyone saw. Mom. Everyone was staring at me." Diane looked over her daughter's head at Officer Ramirez. "I want to press charges. This is assault and discrimination." Officer Ramirez nodded solemnly. "We're already documenting everything. Officer Jenkins is taking statements from witnesses, and we'll need one from you and Emma as well." Diane stroked Emma's hair. "We'll do whatever is necessary. This can't be allowed to happen to anyone else." She looked at Ms. Peterson. What about the other children? The vice principal is on his way with another teacher to continue the field trip, Ms. Peterson explained. I'll be staying with you and Emma. Emma lifted her head from her mother's shoulder. No, you should go with them. I don't want to ruin everyone's day. Sweetheart, you didn't ruin anything, Ms. Peterson assured her. That security guard did. The door to the first aid station opened, and a tall man in a tailored suit entered. I'm Dr. Marcus Chen, the director of Outrage Zoo. I came as soon as I heard what happened. His face was grave as he looked at Emma. Young lady, on behalf of the entire zoo, I want to offer my most sincere apology for what you experienced today. Diane stood, placing herself slightly in front of Emma. An apology isn't enough. Your security staff assaulted my daughter and humiliated her in front of dozens of people. Dr. Chen nodded, his expression somber. You're absolutely right. An apology is just the beginning. I want you to know that the security officer in question has been suspended pending investigation, and we will be cooperating fully with the police. He turned his attention to Emma. I also want you to know that this is not what our zoo stands for. We pride ourselves on being accessible and welcoming to all visitors. Emma looked up at him, her expression wary. She made me feel like I was dangerous just because of my leg. Dr. Chen's face softened. There is nothing dangerous about you. Emma, what happened was wrong on every level, and we're going to make sure it never happens again. The first aid station door opened again, and Officer Jenkins entered with a grim expression. Dr. Chen, I need to speak with you about your security protocols. And Ms. Dunning is demanding legal representation before answering any more questions. Dr. Chen's jaw tightened. She'll get whatever legal representation she needs, but her employment status is another matter entirely. As the adults stepped aside to speak privately, Lily sat beside Emma on the examination table. Everyone's really mad at that lady, she whispered. Tyler's dad is a lawyer, and he's already talking about lawsuits and stuff. Emma managed a small smile. I just wanted to see the tiger cubs. We still can, Lily suggested. Maybe not today, but we'll come back, and next time, nobody will stop us. Outside the first aid station, the situation was escalating in ways no one could have anticipated. The videos of Emma's treatment had gone viral within hours, spreading across social media platforms with hashtags like Justice for Emma and Joshua Zoo Discrimination. Local news vans were already arriving at the zoo entrance, reporters requesting statements about the incident. Inside the administrative offices, Karen Dunning sat rigidly in a chair, her earlier confidence replaced by defensive anger. I was following protocol, she insisted to the HR director and legal counsel who had been hastily summoned. Any item that could potentially be used as a weapon needs to be inspected. A child's prosthetic leg is not a potential weapon, the legal counsel replied, rubbing his temples. It's a medical device protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. How was I supposed to know what it was made of? Karen demanded. It could have contained something dangerous. The HR director leaned forward. Karen, you didn't just question it. According to multiple witnesses and video evidence, you physically removed it from the child without permission, causing her to fall. Karen's expression hardened. I was doing my job. No, the legal counsel said firmly. You were not, and the zoo may now face serious legal consequences because of your actions. Back in the first aid station, Emma had finally reattached her prosthetic with her mother's help. She stood carefully, testing her weight on it. "Does it feel okay?" Diane asked anxiously. "She didn't damage it, did she?" Emma shook her head. "It's fine. Just, can we go home now?" Dr. Chen, who had returned from his conversation with Officer Jenkins, stepped forward. "Emma, before you go, I'd like to extend a personal invitation. When you feel ready, I would be honored to give you and your family a private tour of the zoo, including our behind-the-scenes areas where we care for the animals. The tiger cubs you wanted to see, their names are Zara, Priya, and Kumar, would love to meet you." For the first time since the incident, genuine interest flickered in Emma's eyes. "Really? Could I actually meet them?" "Absolutely," Dr. Chen confirmed. "They're still young enough that our care team handles them regularly. It would be our privilege to welcome you properly this time." As they prepared to leave, Officer Ramirez approached with her notepad. "I've taken down all the initial information, but we'll need you to come to the station tomorrow to give formal statements. The district attorney's office will want to review this case." Diane nodded, her arm around Emma's shoulders. "We'll be there." What none of them realized as they left the zoo through a private exit to avoid the gathering media was that this incident was about to spark a national conversation about accessibility, discrimination, and how society treats people with disabilities. By the next morning, the video had been viewed over 2 million times. National news networks had picked up the story, and Emma's face, tear-streaked and humiliated on the ground, had become a symbol of the fight against discrimination. Diane shielded Emma from the worst of the media frenzy, declining interview requests and keeping her daughter home from school. But she couldn't prevent Emma from seeing her own face on the morning news as they ate breakfast. "Why do they keep showing it?" Emma asked quietly, pushing her cereal around in the bowl. "I don't want everyone to see me like that." Diane sighed, turning off the television. "People are angry about what happened to you. Sweetheart, they want things to change." "But I didn't want to be famous for falling down," Emma said, tears threatening again. "I just wanted to be normal." Diane pulled her daughter into a hug. "You are normal. Emma, what happened yesterday wasn't about you being different. It was about someone else's ignorance and cruelty." Their doorbell rang, and Diane reluctantly went to answer it, peering through the peephole first to ensure it wasn't reporters. Instead, she found Ms. Peterson standing on the porch with a large gift bag and what appeared to be a stack of letters. "The class wanted me to bring these by," Ms. Peterson explained when Diane opened the door. Every student wrote Emma a note, and they pooled their allowance money to get her something. Emma appeared in the hallway behind her mother. "Ms. Peterson!" The teacher's face lit up. "Emma, how are you feeling today?" "Better, I guess," Emma replied with a small shrug. Ms. Peterson handed her the gift bag. "Your classmates missed you today. They wanted you to have this." Emma opened the bag to find a plush tiger cub and a charm for her and Lily's bracelet, a tiny silver tiger. Beneath these were dozens of handwritten notes and cards. She pulled one out at random and read Tyler's messy handwriting. "That security lady was the worst. You're the bravest person in our class. Hope you come back soon." For the first time since the incident, Emma smiled genuinely. "Can you tell everyone thank you?" "You can tell them yourself when you're ready to come back," Ms. Peterson replied. "But take all the time you need." After Ms. Peterson left, Emma spent the morning reading through her classmates' notes. Some expressed outrage at what had happened. Others offered words of encouragement, and a few simply said they missed her. It was a tangible reminder that for every Karen Dunning in the world, there were dozens of people who saw Emma for who she was not, for what she was missing. That afternoon, Diane and Emma went to the police station to give their formal statements. The district attorney herself, a stern-looking woman named Victoria Powell, was present for the interview. "Emma," she said gently, "can you tell me exactly what happened yesterday? In your own words." Emma took a deep breath and recounted the events, from the excitement of the field trip to the moment of humiliation at the zoo entrance. As she spoke, District Attorney Powell took notes, her expression growing increasingly grave. "And has anything like this happened to you before?" she asked when Emma finished. Emma hesitated. "Not exactly like this. Sometimes people stare or ask weird questions. Once a little kid asked if I was a robot." She smiled slightly at the memory. "But no one ever said I was dangerous before." District Attorney Powell closed her notebook. "Emma, what happened to you was wrong on many levels. I want you to know that we're taking this very seriously." After leaving the police station, Diane's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Wilson, this is Dr. Chen from Outrage Zoo. We're holding an emergency board meeting tomorrow regarding yesterday's incident. We would be honored if you and Emma would attend to share your experience directly with our board of directors." Diane showed the message to Emma. "What do you think, sweetheart? Do you feel up to it?" Emma considered for a moment. "Will that lady be there? The security guard?" "I'll make sure she isn't before we agree to go," Diane promised. The next day, Emma and Diane were ushered into the zoo's boardroom, where 12 solemn-faced directors sat around a large table. Dr. Chen greeted them warmly, introducing each board member. "Mrs. Wilson, Emma, thank you for being willing to speak with us today." He began once everyone was seated. "What happened 2 days ago represents a catastrophic failure on our part, and we want to hear directly from you about your experience." Emma looked around the table nervously, intimidated by the serious faces. Diane squeezed her hand encouragingly. "It made me feel like I wasn't a person," Emma said finally, her voice small but clear in the quiet room. "Like I was just my prosthetic, and that made me dangerous or scary." Several board members visibly winced at her words. An older woman at the far end of the table leaned forward. "Emma, I'm Sarah Livingston. I've been on this board for 30 years, and I want you to know that what happened to you has shaken all of us to our core." Another director, a middle-aged man with a service dog lying at his feet, spoke next. "I'm James Rivera. I lost my sight 10 years ago. I know what it's like to be defined by a disability rather than seen as a person. What happened to you should never have happened, and we are determined to make meaningful changes as a result." Dr. Chen nodded. "Which brings us to the purpose of asking you here today. We've already terminated Ms. Dunning's employment." "Terminated?" Diane interrupted, surprised. "Not just suspended." "Her actions were indefensible," Dr. Chen replied firmly. "And our investigation revealed a pattern of similar, though less severe, incidents in the past. But we want to do more than just address this one case. We want to implement systemic changes to ensure nothing like this ever happens again." He slid a folder across the table toward them. "This is our proposed plan. It includes mandatory sensitivity training for all staff, revised security protocols specifically addressing medical devices and accessibility equipment, the creation of a dedicated accessibility coordinator position, and an annual audit of our practices by a third-party disability rights organization. Emma looked up from the folder. Does that mean other kids like me won't have problems when they come? That's our goal, Sarah Livingston confirmed. But we'd also like your input. What would have made you feel welcome and respected from the moment you arrived? Emma thought for a moment. Maybe having people who actually know about prosthetics and stuff, and not making a big deal about it. Just treating it like it's normal. Because it is normal. For me. James Rivera smiled. Out of the mouths of babes. You're absolutely right. Emma. Normalizing differences is the key. As the meeting continued, Emma found herself relaxing as the board members genuinely listened to her suggestions. By the end, she had even laughed at a gentle joke from one of the directors about how his artificial hip had once set off a metal detector at an airport, causing much confusion. As they were preparing to leave, Dr. Chen approached Emma again. I meant what I said about the private tour. Emma, the tiger cubs are getting bigger every day. When would you like to come? Emma looked up at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. Could I bring Lily? She's my best friend. And we were supposed to see the zoo together. Of course, Dr. Chen replied. And perhaps your whole class. If you'd like, we owe all of them a proper zoo experience. On the way home, Emma was quieter than usual, processing everything from the meeting. Finally, she spoke. Mom, do you think what happened to me will actually change things? Diane glanced at her daughter. I think it already has, sweetheart. The zoo is making concrete changes. The story is all over the news, making other places think about their own policies. And you stood up and spoke your truth to that boardroom full of adults. I was scared, Emma admitted. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared, Diane replied. It means doing what's right, even when you are scared. The next week brought more developments. The district attorney's office announced they were charging Karen Dunning with assault and violating Emma's civil rights under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Multiple disability rights organizations had reached out to the Wilsons, offering support and asking Emma to speak at events. The most surprising call came from the mayor's office. The mayor would like to proclaim next Monday as Accessibility Awareness Day in honor of Emma, the assistant explained to a stunned Diane. She's hoping Emma would be willing to attend the ceremony at City Hall. When Diane relayed the request, Emma's first instinct was to refuse. I don't want more attention, she said, curling up on the couch. I just want things to go back to normal. Diane sat beside her. I understand that, and you absolutely don't have to do it if you don't want to. But sometimes, sweetheart, one person's difficult experience can help prevent the same thing from happening to others. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Like when Dad died, and you started the campaign for better guardrails on that curve. Diane's breath caught. They hadn't talked about Richard's accident in months. Yes, exactly like that. Sometimes pain can lead to positive change if we're brave enough to share our stories. That evening, Emma called Lily on video chat. The mayor wants to make some special day because of what happened to me, she explained. Her expression conflicted. I'm not sure if I should do it. Lily's face filled the screen as she considered, remember Jamie in 3rd grade, the one with diabetes who couldn't eat the birthday cupcakes? Emma nodded, unsure where this was going. Remember how the teacher made a big deal about it, and everyone stared at him while he ate his special snack. He was so embarrassed he cried in the bathroom. I remember, Emma said quietly. Well, maybe if your story helps, other kids won't have to feel like that. Like, maybe people will think before they do stuff that makes kids feel weird about things they can't help. The wisdom in Lily's simple statement struck Emma deeply. The next morning, she told her mother she wanted to accept the mayor's invitation. The ceremony at City Hall was smaller than Emma had feared. The mayor, a warm woman in her 50s, named Patricia Gonzalez, spoke briefly about the importance of accessibility and inclusion before reading the proclamation. When she invited Emma to say a few words, Emma approached the podium nervously. "I didn't want to be famous for falling down," she began, her voice shaky but growing stronger. "But if what happened to me can help other kids like me feel normal when they go places, then I'm glad people are paying attention." She paused, gathering her courage. "I'm not my prosthetic leg. I'm just Emma. I like tigers and charm bracelets and math class. And I want to be treated like everyone else." The simplicity and honesty of her statement brought tears to many eyes in the room, including her mother's. The mayor bent down to Emma's level after she stepped away from the podium. "Thank you for your courage. Emma, you've taught this city an important lesson." 2 weeks after the incident, Emma and her entire class returned to Oak Ridge Zoo, this time as VIP guests. Dr. Chen personally led them on a tour, which culminated in a special behind-the-scenes visit to the tiger enclosure, where Emma and Lily were allowed to watch the keepers work with the cubs. "They're so beautiful," Emma whispered as Zara, the largest cub, batted playfully at the keeper's hand. The keeper smiled. "Would you like to touch her? She's quite friendly." With trembling hands, Emma gently stroked the cub's soft fur. The tiger looked up at her with curious amber eyes before playfully nibbling at her fingers. "She likes you," the keeper observed. Lily, recording the moment on her phone, grinned. "This is way better than just seeing them from behind glass." As the class continued their tour, Emma noticed something different about the zoo. New signs had been installed at each exhibit with information in Braille, as well as print. Staff members wore buttons that read, "Ask me about accessibility options." And at the entrance, where her nightmare had begun weeks earlier, a large new sign declared, "Oak Ridge Zoo welcomes all visitors." Walking past the security checkpoint now staffed by entirely new personnel who smiled warmly at the students, Emma felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The zoo had changed because of what happened to her. Her pain had led to progress. That evening, as local news covered the class's triumphant return to the zoo, Diane found Emma sitting quietly in the backyard, looking at the stars. "Penny for your thoughts," she asked, sitting beside her daughter on the porch swing. "I was thinking about Dad." Emma replied, "Do you think he'd be proud of me?" Diane wrapped an arm around her daughter's shoulders. "Oh, Emma, he would be bursting with pride. You stood up for yourself and helped make the world a little better in the process. That's exactly the kind of courage he admired most." Emma leaned into her mother's embrace. "I miss him." "I do too, sweetheart. Every day." Diane kissed the top of Emma's head. "But I think he sent us a little extra strength to get through these past few weeks." They sat in companionable silence for a few minutes before Emma spoke again. "Mom, I've been thinking about what I want to do when I grow up." "Oh, what's that?" "I want to design better prosthetics. Ones that are so cool, nobody would ever think they're scary or dangerous. Maybe even ones that look like tiger legs," she added with a small smile. Diane laughed softly. "I think that sounds perfect. And knowing you, you'll do exactly that." 3 months later, Emma stood nervously backstage at the annual Americans with Disabilities Act celebration at the state capitol. The governor had personally invited her to speak about her experience and the changes it had inspired, not just at Outrage Zoo, but at venues across the state. Since the incident, 6 other major attractions had revised their accessibility policies. Karen Dunning had pleaded guilty to reduced charges and was serving community service hours at a rehabilitation center that worked with amputees. And Emma had become an unexpected advocate, her soft-spoken honesty resonating with people in a way that polished speeches from professional activists sometimes failed to do. "Are you ready?" Diane asked, straightening Emma's dress, a new one, deep blue with silver stars, that Emma had specifically chosen because it didn't hide her prosthetic. Emma nodded, though her hands were trembling slightly. "I think so." "Remember what we practiced. Just speak from your heart." As Emma walked onto the stage to warm applause, she caught sight of familiar faces in the audience. Ms. Peterson and her entire class had come to support her. Dr. Chen and several of the zoo board members were present. Even Officer Ramirez had come, giving Emma an encouraging thumbs up from her seat. Taking a deep breath, Emma stepped up to the microphone. "My name is Emma Wilson. 3 months ago, I was just a kid who wanted to see some tigers." As she spoke about her experience and the positive changes that had resulted from it, Emma realized something important. The incident that had once been the most humiliating moment of her life had transformed into something powerful, a catalyst for change, a platform for her voice, and a testament to her own resilience. She was no longer the girl who fell down. She was Emma Wilson, advocate, future prosthetics designer, and, most importantly, a whole person who happened to have a prosthetic leg. When she finished speaking, the audience rose in a standing ovation. Emma's eyes found her mother's in the crowd, both of them with tears shining in their eyes. In that moment, Emma knew that although her path forward might sometimes be difficult, she would never walk it alone. As she left the stage to thunderous applause, a young girl in a wheelchair approached her. "You're my hero," the girl said shyly, offering Emma a handmade card. "When I grow up, I want to be brave like you." Emma knelt down to the girl's level, remembering how it felt to be defined by what made her different. "What's your name?" "Sophia." "Well, Sophia," Emma said with a warm smile, "I think you already are brave, and I can't wait to see all the amazing things you'll do." As they chatted, Emma caught sight of a reporter filming their interaction from a respectful distance. Once, that would have made her uncomfortable. Now, she understood that her story had power, the power to change minds, to open hearts, and to make the world a little more understanding for the next child who was different. And that, Emma decided as she posed for a photo with her new friend, was worth every difficult moment of her journey.